Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode on AnubhavTrainings.com. In this episode, we will look at the scenario where we will find out what is the good practice to work with multiple OData services when they need to be consumed in your Fiori application. Let's imagine a scenario that in your company there are multiple teams doing different variety of development, and there are different services which they have built by far in the S4HANA system. And now you've been asked to develop an application which consumes these multiple services together in a Fiori app. This becomes a challenging task. You become confused that how can you add multiple OData services as part of Fiori app? And what is the good practice to make sure that you have a future safe and less maintenance in the code which you write? So let's take a scenario here. What I will have is I will have two different services as part of my application. So the team one here is building one OData service. Let me call this as Z Anubhav underscore Anubhav 1 underscore SRV. This is my first service. On the other side, I have a team two who's actually creating another OData service called Z Anubhav 2 SRV. Now these two OData services are created and exposed out, and now you as a developer would like to consume these services coming from these different teams. So this is you as a developer, and you've been asked to build a Fiori application. And this Fiori app needs to now use both of these services as part of your Fiori application, and both of them you want to add them as part of Fiori. So basically your Fiori app should call both of these services. How do you achieve that? Let's see, and what could be a good practice in future to make sure that your code is future ready and safe. So let's get started in the SAP system. I'll go to my S4 system and I go to services. I've already created these two services for you. So let me just go here to my S4 system and filter the external service with Z Anubhav. And you would found that I've got two services already over here. I'll just call the browser to look at the service metadata document for both the services. So this is my service one, exposing product data. And then I have another service, Z Anubhav SRV2, which is exposing business partners data. You can see supplier data. So both of them exposing different data set. Okay. So it's time to go to our WebIDE and create a Fiori application using these two OData services. So as we have two OData services, we would need two OData models. And as you all know that we cannot have two data models with same name in parallel. So one of the OData model will be the default model without a name, and another one will be a named model with some name. So I'm going to go back to WebIDE and let's create a new UI5 project out here. So it's a new project from template. Let's create a very basic one. And now what we will do is just go ahead and create a UI5 project. So just come back here and I will choose UI5 application. Say next. Let's give some name, Z OData consumption, consume OData services. Oh, it's a namespace. Yeah. So let's put ATS.OData and I'm going to say next. And we're going to choose just one view called main XML view, say finish. So this is how we just quickly add up one OData project. And now in this, we will include our OData services. Very easy one. Going to right click on this and say new. We will just be adding the OData service. So let's go to the manifest.json. Descriptor editor will open. And here we will go ahead and create data sources. So let's add two of these data sources which we just created. The first one was our server, our service for Z Anubhav 1. I'm going to search that Anubhav 1 and just add this up and let's finish. So that's the first data source. Let's add another one. Again, choose our S4HANA server where we have the data source and just choose the second one. Both of them is selected, but now it's time to create the OData model for both of them. Remember, these are two data sources, hence we will need to have two OData models. For example, if you have 5 OData services, different services which you want to consume in your project, then you will have 5 different models with different names. So let's create a plus. I'm going to create the first one as a default one and choose my service as Anubhav1, say okay. And then the next one I will have to give some name. I say OData2 and just choose it as second one, say okay. So now we've got two OData models in there. Don't forget to save your manifest. And it's time to just quickly execute this empty view. So let's run this and just keep an eye on F12. Observe the network call. Is it making a call to both of the OData service by loading the metadata of both of them? So let's quickly go ahead and check that. And then in next subsequent section, I will be just quickly creating a real list control to display the data from both of these OData services. The first one is the product data, and the second one will be the supplier data which we will be adding. So now I just execute, and I'll just once again check the network tab and just quickly do a refresh, and you would see now in a second our metadata calls. You see here first metadata and second one for both of the OData services which we have. So you see first metadata call, and then this one is the second metadata call. Fine. So now it's time to quickly create the list control to display both the data, both supplier and product data. I'm going to go back to the view. And now here in the view, we will add two list controls. Just make it a little bigger for you to check. The first list control is item segregation. And I'm going to bind it with the default data model with / product set entity set. And then let's add item. And then let's add here a display list item with the text, value and label. And now I will also duplicate this one for supplier set. But the supplier set, as you know, as part of our manifest, you can check here, we have got two OData models created. The first one is the default one without a name, and the second one is OData2. Let's pick it up and put here the supplier set. Yeah, so that's a named model binding. And now also quickly go ahead and check the properties. Just check the metadata here. For the first service, what it takes product ID, product category, name. So I'll just choose category name. Just go back, product ID, category, product ID, and name. Just put that. And let's look at the metadata for the second service to see what it has got. And now you can see here we have got BPID, and maybe I'm going to use company name. So just do that binding for the second one. It's a named model, so must have to use the name of the model every time. And company name. Just save this up. Let's come back to the Fiori application and refresh. And as a result of that, two list controls will get the data. So you can see the first list control have got you the product data, and just scroll down a little bit more. You would see also the supplier data coming. You see this different supplier information. Yeah. So both of these lists are getting the data. It looks like a straightforward one. Maybe I just do one thing quickly, add them inside a panel. So I'm going to add a panel here. And then inside the panel 1, we will be adding the list 1. And then inside the panel 2, I will add the list 2. Makes it easy for me to show you the visualization. Now let's give the title for the panels. I hope that's not the title property here. Okay, so I'm just going to check what's the correct property. I guess it's a label property. Nope. I'm going to go back then, maybe quickly check this. I'll just keep it panels, empty panels, and I'm going back and refresh. So now let's see what we get. We will get ideally 2 panels. Oops, is still the panel titles is not there. So that's the reason now we're not getting expand option. So maybe it's done via aggregation. I hope so. So let me just add header toolbar. And then under that a toolbar object. And under that a title object with text property. And I'll say this is my products data. Similarly, we will add also the another one for the second panel as suppliers. And let's come back and refresh the page. So now let's see what we get. Yes, we are getting our panels. So this products data, as you can see, if I just scroll down a little bit, once my products are complete, you can see now the suppliers. That's good, not a problem. You are able to call 2 OData services, and then it's easy to just bring the data also by connecting to the ECC or S4 system. But the challenge comes is in future, let's say you are getting more OData services, maybe 5, 6, 7, and so on. The number of models which you are creating here are going to increase. Okay, these number of models are going to increase slowly, and the way number of models will increase here, your complexity in the code will also increase, because this named model is actually always going to be used with its name. As you can see here in supplier binding, we are always doing that. And as a developer, I would probably get confused at some point of time that which is the correct model I'm referring. And it becomes really cumbersome when the number of services are increasing. So how and what do we do to make it, easy, make it more like a standard? So the guideline of SAP Fiori best practice says that we should always use one OData service in one project. Okay, that's the guideline. But now here the requirement says that you got to use maybe 2 or more than 2 services. So now the guideline and requirement both are far away. How do we bring them to a common place? To do that now, what we will do is go back and do a little trick in the ABAP system. So I'm going to go back and create another OData project, which is a wrapper on the existing project. So I have 2 projects, Z Anubhav 1 and 2. I'm going to create a wrapper project by combining them for my project. So watch out here. I'm going to say create, and let's give some name, Z Anubhav. And I'm going to say this is a wrapper project for sub OData. And this wrapper is the central point of contact. It's the facade layer to which we will be calling from the UI. I'm going to say local object for time being. Back and now create, right click on this model and say include OData service here. Choose that. And now you can see you can give a service name. Yeah. So the one which we want is the Anubhav star, F for help. And you would see the list of all the services with Z Anubhav. I can see 2. So I'm going to use one of them one by one. This is the first one. I say okay. And now you can see it is model referenced here. The second one also the same way, right click and say include OData service. And let's choose the second one here. So I'm just going to choose Z Anubhav 2 SRV. And of course that version is 1. And I say okay. Now both the models are referenced here, means this is a wrapper which now includes everything from the sub services. This is a reference. So it's equal to something like in object oriented world, what we do is multiple inheritance. For example, there's a class A, there's a class B, and there's a class C, and I want to create a new class, say D. Now this D class inherits everything from A, B, and C. So it's similar to that. So even you want to change the A, B, and C, you can go ahead and freely change them. Immediately that change will reflect in the D because it's just inheriting, referencing the objects. It's not creating a new one altogether. So, and now for the UI also the problem is solved because UI will talk to only Z Anubhav. I'm going to generate and say, okay, local objects, we are done. And it's time to register this OData service before we go for final consumption. So we go to the transaction for register and slash main service. And now we will be registering our new service Z Anubhav. Let's do that. And let's find this. Awesome. And now watch out, after registration, if you check out quickly the metadata of this particular service, you would observe it's now combining everything together as a composite service. So this will behave like as a one service from the consumer point of view, the Fiori point of view, it is one service, but behind the scene it's talking services offered by different teams. So you can just create this wrapper for yourself and let those teams wonder about what you have done, and you have just created another service which is just reusing everything from there. Just show you the service document here. You would see now it contains combined entity sets from both of the child services. Yeah, you see suppliers and products. So now the easiest part is just use the new service. So I'm going to go back, look at the Fiori code. Now it simplifies to a great extent. I'm going to come back and I will go back to descriptor editor to models, and I'll remove this model. I don't need it anymore. Just choose and just simply remove it. Bye-bye. Go to data source, remove both the data sources, not needed, bye-bye. Remove this default model also, bye-bye for timing. And now I just add another data source, and this is going to be my default model. And just choose the server once again, our S4HANA instance. So find the service which you created, the wrapper one, and say finish. And you can see it's been added. Let's go to the models and quickly create default model now for this newly created data source. Say okay, and don't forget to save. Time to go back to the view, and in the view now, bye-bye to all this extra named model binding, because everything becomes now simplified to a single default model. Bye-bye everything. Just save this. This is the right way, the best practice. We're following now the best practice. At the same time, we're using multiple services. This is one of the real amazing example of achieving a good integration from Fiori-App to the OData service. And voila, there you go. You can see we got products data as usual like earlier, and we also got supplier data. So you have got one single model. Your code has been simplified. The users will not complain, or you also never get confused. Your core developers never get confused about which data is retrieved from which service. That way it's always very, very handy for you to work with the OData services. And you also created a wrapper. So with that, it's a wrap on today's class. Hope you enjoyed this video, how to consume multiple OData service. This is real practical knowledge which comes out of the box from real learning. With that, Anubhav signing out. Thank you so much and goodbye.